20s and a few more places likely to exceed 30 degrees. May well get hotter for the weekend.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Sussex, the M25 clockwise at junction 10 has a traffic incident causing 1.5-hour delays. The A14 eastbound between junction 55 Copdock and junction 56 Ipswich Docks is congested, causing 30-minute hold-ups. Closures on the A9 at Port Gower in both directions are due to essential overnight roadworks. The M4 westbound from junction 24 Coldra to junction 28 Tredegar Park is closed due to roadworks with diversions in place. And on the trains, cross-country is disrupted between Leicester and Nuneaton, while Hull Trains operates a reduced service today. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Very good evening to you. Welcome to Farage with me, Martin Dordney, standing in for Nigel Farage. On tonight's show, the jury is out, quite literally, because the Leveson Review is proposing that people accused of serious offences, including sexual grooming, could be denied a jury trial. And critics say it strikes at the very heart of habeas corpus and the right to be judged by your peers. Also on the show tonight, it's revealed a senior Labour Party MP has benefited financially to the tune of thousands of pounds from a tycoon hotelier providing migrant hotels. Is Labour really committed to ending illegal migration if their MPs are taking money from hotel tycoons? Plus, at PMQs today, Nigel Farage was harangued and jeered so loudly by opposition MPs it was impossible to even hear his question. Has the Speaker completely lost control of the Commons? All of that to come, but first, the latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 1 minute past 7. The small boats crisis is, quote, a shared priority that requires shared solutions, Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron agreed as they met earlier today in Downing Street. The French president said France's renewed partnership with the UK was a game changer as he met with the PM in Number 10 for talks. Mr Macron is demanding tough action to make the UK less attractive to illegal migrant arrivals. That's as the Prime Minister hopes to strike a one-in, one-out deal to send small boat migrants back to the continent in exchange for the UK accepting asylum seekers in Europe who have a British link. Also today, Sir Keir Starmer says we are now entering a new era of world history. That's as he joins the French president at the British Museum to mark France loaning the Bayeux Tapestry to the UK. As part of the announcement, the Sutton Hoo artefacts will be loaned to France in a cultural exchange next year. Also today, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch pressed Sir Keir Starmer on tax rises at Prime Minister's questions, with the Prime Minister committing not to raise income tax, VAT or national insurance on employees, as promised in Labour's manifesto. Ms Badenoch also put it to him that he's flirting with calls for a wealth tax.
Mr Speaker, in their manifesto last year, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises?
Yes. We are absolutely fixed on our fiscal rules. We remain committed to them. We remain committed to our budget, to our manifesto commitments. I realise that sticking to your fiscal rules and your manifesto commitments is a bit unfamiliar to the party opposite, but it's because of the decisions the Chancellor took, that this government has taken, that we can update the House. £120 billion of inward investment into this country since we took office.
And speaking in a press conference this evening, US President Donald Trump said that there are more tariffs to come, and the president also touched on the conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine. On the economy, the president has reportedly issued tariff letters to Algeria, Brunei, Iraq, Libya, Moldova, the Philippines and Brazil. The president went on to say that he was not happy with what's going on in Ukraine, adding that he will consider sending Patriot missiles to President Zelensky's country. On Gaza, President Trump said that there is a very good chance of a settlement this week. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Martin.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome to Farage with me, Martin Daubney. Now, people charged with more serious crimes could lose their automatic right to a trial by jury under major proposals to overhaul the courts system in the UK. Now, there are almost 77,000 cases currently awaiting a trial in the Crown Court in England and Wales, meaning that some defendants and victims are waiting literally years for justice. Now, the Crown Court deals with grave offences and utilises jury trials. Leveson suggests that over 150 serious offences to be dealt with in Crown Courts, such as sexual grooming, child abduction or even causing death by careless driving, should instead be handled using a new court division and decided by a judge and 2 magistrates. But some barristers argue that juries are essential for fair justice and scrapping them is just wrong. Well, what are civil liberties without the right to a fair trial? A cornerstone, of course, of any free democracy. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio now by Sir Michael Ellis, the former Attorney General, and also by the criminal defence solicitor specialising in sexual offences, Marcus Johnson. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. Sir Michael Ellis, I shall start with you. Those in favour say this is a more streamlined approach. There's a huge backlog. It will enable us to clear the backlog quicker. Those against this, of course, say it's a denial of justice, and many say, who would they rather trust at the moment more? Our woke judges and our justice system, or actually the general public? What's your take?
My take is this is an outrageous infringement. We have a right to jury. We've had it for many centuries. And a fair trial means a jury trial for serious offences. I think they're trying to rig the system here. Look, I do totally agree, Martin, that there's unconscionable delays. It puts terrible stress on defendants who have to wait years and on witnesses who are also having to wait years for justice. But rigging the system and trying to fix it so that there is no jury to decide on these cases, first of all, it's unfair. But second of all, it's not actually going to solve the problem. Juries, in my view, and I practiced in the criminal courts for 17 years, juries are not the reason for the delays. They may add a few hours to a case when things have to be explained to them. They may add a couple of days to a longer case. But people are waiting a year for a charging decision. So it's not actually the court case itself that's causing the delays. Getting rid of juries won't solve this problem. In fact, it'll create another bigger problem because you'll end up with far more convictions. The evidence, the statistics are there, Martin. When you look at magistrates' courts, if you put two magistrates with a judge, you will get more guilty convictions because they won't, they're jaded. They see them all every day, these cases, the defendants, the witnesses, and they will just convict far more often. So what will happen is you'll end up then with an even more clogged prison system. So all you'll do, if the Labour government gets its way here, they will solve half a problem, or they think they will, but instead they'll end up with far more people in prison because there'll be far fewer acquittals. It's a disastrous idea, and I oppose it completely.
Marcus Johnson makes a compelling case there. So, Michael Ellis, it isn't really about justice, it's about numbers. It's about pushing people into jail to tick boxes.
It is a tick box exercise, and that's the way the system is going in the criminal justice system. There's been massive cutbacks over the last 15, 20 years. The system is on its knees, but so is the police force, so is the prosecution service, so is the probation service. Everything to do with the justice system is falling apart. Michael mentioned the delays, people waiting delays to be charged. You know, I work in practice now. We've got clients waiting 3 years for a charging decision. If they get charged, they're waiting potentially another 2-3 years before it reaches a trial. This delay cannot happen. It's devastating people's lives, not just the people who are making the complaints, the victims, but people who are accused of these crimes and their families, to have to wait for years and years for any kind of justice to be determined. It's just not acceptable.
And have you come across cases where this delay has destroyed people's lives to the point where they've done something drastic?
I have. Unfortunately, yesterday I had a chap who'd been representing, he's been waiting 2.5 years for a charging decision, and yesterday he took his own life.
And that is devastating
It's
to
appalling.
hear.
It's unconscionable, and there shouldn't be these delays. And I totally agree with Marcus. It's unacceptable. But getting rid of juries isn't going to be the solution, because what you've just heard Marcus say, and he's got day-to-day experience of this, in the modern, right now, the problem is, if it takes 2 or 3 years for the police and Crown Prosecution Service to make the charging decision, well, there's 2 or 3 years of your 5-year delay. If they made the charging decision in a few weeks, which it should be possible to do, then you would have, obviously, a huge chunk taken off that delay, because no one wants those sorts of delays, and it's just unfair to everybody, and that's not justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. But getting rid of a jury system is well, it's just outrageous.
Can I put it to you, Sir Michael Ellis, that perhaps the public can be trusted better than our judiciary to make a balanced decision? In particular, I draw your attention to recent sentencing council guideline reviews where they were trying to downgrade a great deal of serious offences, including those of asylum seekers, immigrants coming here, trying to downgrade those 4-5-year terms for sexual offences down to less than a year so they avoid jail. Is there any merit to the notion that the judiciary is a bit more woke and might try and keep people out of jail just to process them through, whereas really the jury system would be throwing the book at them?
Well, exactly. Look, we've got a more activist judiciary than we have had in previous generations. There's no doubt about that. And we see that in judicial review, away from the criminal justice system. But we do have an excellent judiciary. But the reality is, it's not insulting to our judges to say that we need to have a jury system, because we've had that for 600-700 years. It's been an understanding that being judged by one's peers, in other words, by your fellow man and woman, that is where you get justice. Because for one thing, Martin, they'll inject some common sense into a case. And you do need that sometimes. In fact, you need it every time. Sometimes lawyers will look at a case and say, well, technically the rules have been broken, the law has been broken, but juries will, in the privacy of a jury room, say, well, maybe so, but we're going to cut him some slack on this occasion, and we're going to exercise our discretion in the defendant's favour on this occasion. And I would rather see those people acquitted on the basis of a jury deciding what's fair, as opposed to some algorithm or an overly legalistic approach deciding, well, the rule is broken and tough luck, you're going down. So justice is a balance. It's not just convicting, it's a balance between innocence and guilt, and that's a complex balance. No system is perfect, but we've long since decided, haven't we, that the Western world have long since decided over centuries that juries are the way to do it.
And so why change the system, Marcus Johnson, if it is actually useful to have the general public who aren't imbibed in the system? They look at it through the eyes of the public. Aren't they actually a safety check? We need that safety check. If we allow judges just to rule us under, trouble lies ahead.
Possibly. I mean, it is a safety check. I think all lawyers would prefer to have a trial by jury because lawyers would say, well, their clients get a better hearing. There's a better chance for them. I've dealt with cases in the Crown Court and the Magistrates' Court, and you tend to find summary-only cases that have just dealt with in the Magistrates' Court. It's the same type of more minor offences, and so the magistrates see the same type of offences time and time again and just become too jaundiced with what's going on there. And lawyers will say, look, we just don't get the client doesn't get a fair trial in a magistrates' court. Some magistrates are exceptional, some are very, very good, and some really raise some concerns. And I think going to a trial by jury, it means that it could be the same case that goes on every single day, but if it's a new jury, it's the first time they've dealt with that. So it's a much better system, a fairer system, to have the complaint raised, to hear the evidence, and for the jury to decide the facts. The judge, of course, will decide the sentence. And he mentioned the sentencing guidelines. Yes, there's pressure being put on the judges to reduce the terms down, to avoid the prison sentences, which is perhaps a slightly separate issue. But it is a problem because victims will say, well, hang on a minute, if I'm the victim of a serious assault or a serious sexual assault, how on earth is this person avoiding prison? And it's just because of the pressure on the prison places and the pressure on the judiciary not to send people to prison. And more guidance that is being issued to avoid prison places, to avoid the prison population.
But we've also heard, Sir Michael S., recently about these pre-sentencing guidelines which have been handed out, which are downgrading offences committed by those from ethnic minority backgrounds, those from backgrounds of poverty. They didn't really mean it. It was just because they've had a tough life.
They tried to row back from that.
And I think the general public can see through that nonsense.
Easily see
judges seem to, myself and maybe a lot of people watching this channel, have been captured by this mindset that we should forgive, perhaps, certain people from background. That's not the idea of justice. Lady Justice should be blind.
That's right. Look, but I think our judges should be given discretion. Where it goes wrong is where you have the executive, Parliament, making a decision that there should be set sentences. And this is where the sentencing guidelines become really controversial. They were controversial 20, 30 years ago when they first came out, and people have made this argument, because you're really trying to impose justice based on your resources. But I tell you now, Martin, this idea, the Leveson report, and I have great respect for Brian Leveson, but this report it's just not going to work, because what will happen if the government wants to save money, they'll end up spending more money by having to invest in more prisons, because the conviction rate will shoot up. You only have to look at the currently available statistics to see that if you're in front of a magistrate's court, you're much more likely to be convicted than if you're in front of a Crown Court. You create bigger and more powerful magistrates' courts, that's what these would be, and you're going to get more people convicted, and your prison system is going to get fuller and fuller.
Marcus Johnson, there's only one question that really matters to the general public who don't understand the intricacies, the minutiae of the legal system. Will our streets be safer? Will the country be safer if the Leveson review comes to pass, yes or no?
No. Not at all. I mean, apart from the fact that most crimes are now committed off the streets, committed online crimes. I'm old enough to remember life before the internet, and all the crimes there were taking place on the streets and that type of crime. Now all the criminal activity, most of the sex criminal activity is online offences, and that's not going to be detected by bobbies on the beat. So you have an added problem. The inquiry now is dealing with the situation that was built up over 20 years. And in addition to that continuing problem, because it's not going to solve the problem, then there's no additional resources going into solving this problem with the backlog now. It's cutting back on what's already there. But it's also, we've now got new crimes coming along all the time. And there's more people committing crimes. There's an ever-increasing foreign population that's coming to the UK. I was in a major Crown Court in London a few weeks back, and I was looking at the list for my client's name to see which court he was in. And just scanning through the lists and lists of all the different courtrooms, and probably 60%, maybe higher, of those names were obviously foreign names, people perhaps that were not originally from the UK. Now, how can that many people be in court with those offences? That wasn't happening 5-10 years ago. This is an explosion of crimes that are being committed from people that we've not seen committing crimes in this country previously. And that's not mentioned in this report. It's not, people are scared to talk about that, but it's a real problem. And in addition to that, all those people are requiring the interpreters to be at court. And that's what's slowing down the system. It's not the jury. Most of the times when I'm in court at a jury trial, it's just the administration delays of starting at 10 o'clock and then having a break at 10:15 because something else has happened and the judge has got to do something else. There's so many things that take time. Okay. It's not necessarily just the jury.
Gentlemen, a fascinating debate. We have to leave it there. Sir Michael Ellis and Marcus Johnson, an absolute pleasure to have your company tonight on Farage. Thank you. Now, coming up next, please don't go anywhere, because it's revealed that a senior Labour Party MP has benefited financially to the tune of thousands of pounds from an asylum hotel tycoon providing migrant hotels. Is the Labour Party really committed to ending illegal migration and asylum hotels if some of their MPs are on the bankroll? And at PMQs today, Nigel Farage was harangued and jeered so loudly by opposition MPs it was impossible to hear his question. Has the Speaker completely lost control of the Commons? That's next.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Back in 2015, Thornton and Cleveley's resident Emma Shepherd noticed the grass in her garden wasn't growing. Within months, she had to put down Alfie, one of her beloved dogs, who had developed throat cancer. Just weeks later, she developed a lesion on her back, which would later be diagnosed as skin cancer. She knew then that something wasn't right.
I wasn't really aware of the history of the ICI site when I took the property. I did so much investigation. I had the ground tested with my own money. There was high levels of metals in there and some obviously cancerous carcinogenics in there. They actually nicknamed me Erin Brockovich because I was so all over it.
Last year, a joint investigation was launched by the Environment Agency and the local council. That was following the discovery of PFOA, a man-made chemical that potentially causes cancer. Both parties told GB News they are now working together on this matter, whilst the company under investigation for the potential release of the substance had this to say. AGC Chemicals Europe sets the highest standards for itself and takes its commitments to the local community and to the environment extremely seriously. They added that they voluntarily phased out the use of PFOA in the UK by early 2012. Release of the substance was within the permits held by AGC Chemicals Europe at the time, and also UK legislation in place at the time. And yet, 2 months ago, residents within a kilometre of the site received this letter from the council, advising them not to consume anything grown in their gardens due to potential PFOA contamination.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, time for some of your views. And Leslie says this: removing the jury system massively increases the power of the state and is anti-democratic. The power of the state is increasing, policing what we can say or write or even do, so there would be no checks or balance on the unfettered power of the state. It gets more like Russia or China every single day. And another GB News viewer adds this: you have to wait for 5 to 6 years to get to court. How reliable will witnesses in all good conscience be after all of that time? Bad for victims, the accused and witnesses. And another viewer adds this: no one trusts our judiciary anymore. We're disappointed and disillusioned by their decisions. Juries are a necessity to keep our left-wing judges in check. Thanks for your views. Moving on to our next story. And the Labour Party has pocketed cash from a hotelier who made millions of pounds housing asylum seekers. A senior MP and a local branch have both accepted thousands from the hotel tycoon Guhar Nawab's hotel business in recent times. Now, this comes as ministers are vowing to end the lucrative migrant hotel contracts. We can now speak with the research director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, welcome to the show. So Labour MP Rosanna Ali Khan has accepted thousands of pounds in donations from the hotel. He's amassed a £500 million fortune, thanks in large part to decades of government contracts. There's no suggestion that anything illegal is going on here, but it's not a good look, is it, from a party that's vowing to end asylum hotels?
No, it's really bad optics for the Labour Party, for a senior politician to be taking money from an individual that is effectively benefiting and profiting from the misery that the asylum system, the chaos enveloping the asylum system, is imposing on working class communities. And I would like to think that, given the backlash that this story has generated, that the MP and the branch in question would return the money. I very much doubt that, because it seems to be quite a rife phenomenon in British politics that money from the asylum system, those profits that are being generated on the backs of the British taxpayer, are being passed ultimately to political parties. Let's not forget, of course, that the Liberal Democrats' biggest donor in the 2024 general election was also an individual who had made a pretty penny as a result of the asylum chaos. There's a lot of money swilling around in the asylum system, 6.4 billion this year, Home Office estimates suggest, and it's going in many cases to unscrupulous charities that are using it effectively to campaign rather than providing services, and individuals such as this chap in question, who has then gone on to donate money to the Labour Party. So there's real questions, and I would actually like to see a lot more of an audit of the way we are spending our asylum money as well, because the amount that's swilling around, and a lot of it goes on questionable expenditure types as well.
It's worth pointing out that in a few of these London constituencies, one very near me, people were actively stopping coaches taking people to deportation centres. It's become very, very politicised, and I think a lot of people might feel uncomfortable with the fact that large sums of money are being donated by the people that own these hotels to politicians anyway, anywhere in the first place.
I just missed the audio on that last bit there, Martin, but what I would say is that these were very unpopular asylum hotels operating in the south of London. I know for a fact that this MP herself actually called the conditions that these asylum seekers were being kept in squalid, despite her now taking money from the individual who's keeping them in such conditions. They're of course not squalid. Many of them are 4-star hotels, and frankly, they're a lot better than those individuals breaking into our country should be given. They should be kept in upgraded detention facilities and removed within 2 weeks. That doesn't seem to be happening. So I think we need to have a bit more perspective and realise that 6.4 billion is a lot of money that could do a lot of good for a lot of British people, homeless veterans, homeless families. Some children are at risk of ending up on the street as well. So we need to start really focusing our minds, I think, whether this is a necessary expenditure.
OK, Rob Bates, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure. The Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Now, I've got a couple of rights of reply to read you here, and it's this. The CEO of the London Hotel Group, Mahir Nawab, has said this. We have always invested in our properties and maintained high standards to meet the strict contract criteria at our accommodation partners, including the Home Office. In the last 2 years alone, we've invested over £25 million in our accommodation. And a spokesperson for the Labour MP in question, Dr Rosanna Allen Khan, has said this. All donations are declared according to the rules set out by Parliament and the Electoral Commission. Rosanna receives donations from a variety of people and companies who support her campaigns. Now, moving on to our next story. If you were watching PMQs earlier on today, then you might not have been able to hear Nigel Farage in the chamber.
And that we demand, the country demands, that you say to the French president... Will you shut up? Undocumented males across the English Channel, and that you are not dictated to by an increasingly arrogant anti-Brexit French leader.
His proposal for 10 years, wagging the Tory dog, has been to break everything and claim that's how you fix things, to stick 2 fingers up at your neighbours and then expect them to work with us. And he votes against the Borders Bill, which gives more powers to our law enforcement to deal with security at our borders. And Mr. Speaker, the reason for that is he has no interest in fixing the problem because he wants to milk it and exploit it. That's the truth about him and his party.
Well, you know, I've listened to that clip 5 or 6 times. I still don't know what Nigel Farage's question was. It's impossible to hear it. And has the Speaker lost control of the Commons? He barely intervened in that exchange. And after Emmanuel Macron subbed the Reform UK leader, is there a feeling that the entire political establishment is now biased against him? Well, joining me now to discuss this is my panel. That's the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, and the former Labour advisor, Stella Shanti-Kidu. Welcome to you both. Kwasi Kwarteng, hi. I'm going to start with you. You've been harangued, no doubt, all the time. Lots of times at PMQs, but there was a point today where you literally couldn't hear a single word Nigel Farage said. The Speaker didn't intervene. He was being lambasted by the pro-Palestine independents behind him. Sure. It was a disgrace.
Look, I was sat, I think, 14 years in the House of Commons, and certainly in the Bercow years, that happened all the time. People were being barracked, people were yelling, MPs were yelling. Bercow tried to impose authority. I remember he shouted order, order 9 times, and each time he shouted it, the volume went up. So this sort of barracking isn't new. Is it a good thing? Probably not, because you want to hear the person speaking, but I don't think this is a new thing. Particularly if you are, as Nigel is, leader of minority parties. You know, he's got 5 MPs, and there are 650 MPs. So if you've only got 5 MPs, and there are essentially 600 odd against you, they're going to probably shout you down, and that's just, I'm afraid, a feature of the House of Commons.
Is it? Or is it a case of a Speaker who just doesn't intervene? So, I mean, there was little or no attempt there to calm the crowd down. All the people behind him, in fact, it was Lee Anderson who shouted, "Shut up," at Iqbal Mohammed, his independent pro-Palestine MP for Dewsbury, sat right behind Nigel Farage. All you could hear was the heckling, not the question.
You're quite right. The heckling, as I've said, is something that's always happened. Certainly, all the time I was there, that happened all the time. And Ed Davey used to complain about this when he was leader, or whoever was leader of about 12 Lib Dem MPs, and they got barracked the whole time. But you're quite right that the Speaker, I think, should have at least made an attempt to say, you know, I want to hear what the leader of the Reform Party, the Honourable Member for Clacton, is saying. And he didn't do that. So I think you have a point there. But you can't complain. I mean, complaining about noise in the House of Commons is like a sailor complaining about the sea. I mean, that's just a feature of that forum.
OK, let me bring you in now, Stella. A lot of people just listen to PMQs week in, week out. Just think it sounds like a complete racket. It sounds like a sort of wall of noise. It sounds like a circus. People, whatever your political beliefs, they want to be able to hear what people are saying, and it simply didn't happen today.
That hasn't happened, as Kwasi said, many, many times in the past. This is not the first time this happened. This is just a future of the House of Commons. And yes, would it be nice if debates could be a bit more civilised? For sure. But I think Reform MPs need to stop being such snowflakes. They keep on complaining about the victim culture and cancel culture and snowflake woke millennials. And at the same time, they want to be taken seriously as a party that wants to be in government. And when they get elected in the Houses of Parliament, what do? They act surprised about the culture that they were well aware was there. So tell me this, Martin. If you respect British institutions so much, and if you love British culture so much, then why is it that you struggle to behave in a way that is considered...
But that's the job of the Speaker, to maintain
absolutely,
the...
Absolutely, and we agree on that. And we agree on that, but tell me, are there not more important issues to be discussing right now, rather than whether or not Nigel Farage felt appreciated enough by his fellow parliamentarians?
I don't think it's a case of being appreciated, it's a case of, like, if somebody has a question...
Was Jeremy Corbyn listened to when he was leader of the Labour Party? Was Diane Abbott?
How would you feel if Iqbal Mohammed, the pro-Palestine independent, was shouted down by 5
It wasn't just Iqbal. You keep on repeating his name.
How do you like that?
We watched the video. That was not just one MP.
You'd be called him racist.
That was not just one MP.
Just taking a step back, I don't think Nigel would complain that much about it.
Yeah, I don't either.
If he were here, I think he understands that that's very much, as Stella said, the culture of the place. Now, we can say we don't like the culture, but anyone who's gone into the House of Commons or wants to get into the House of Commons has seen PMQs.
All right.
And knows that it is a bit of a circus. I never liked it.
Kwasi, Stella, I'm being told we must move on. Thank you both. Spirited debate. Now, the UK will miss today's deadline to strike a deal with the USA over steel and aluminum tariffs, as they call them in America, which could see exports to the US whacked with 50% levies when it may have avoided them altogether. Is the government procrastinating Britain's industry into oblivion? Are they losing their mettle?
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Largely sunny skies across the Mediterranean. It is a little bit breezy in parts of Greece and Turkey over the next couple of days, but still lots of blue sky to be had here. Small chance of a shower in Croatia, but mostly they're staying away to the north and east. Small chance of a shower across Catalonia as well, but most of Spain dry and sunny. Bit of an onshore breeze, bringing some cloud to the coasts of Portugal, and fine and sunny in the Canaries. Continued risk of a shower or two in Barcelona into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Temperatures rising over the next few days. Another heat wave for a large part of the country. Strong July sunshine thanks to this strong area of high pressure. There is a weather front just draped over northern Scotland that will continue to bring some cloud and patchy rain here through the night and for tomorrow. But most places under the influence of high pressure will be dry. Light winds may turn a bit misty in a few spots, particularly around western coast, and it will be quite a warm night, especially so in the southeast and East Anglia. 16-17 to start the day on Thursday. Should be a lot of sunshine across England and Wales tomorrow, more so than today, although parts of the west will start a little drab and a little misty, probably starting fairly cloudy too for Northern Ireland. Good chunk of central, southern and eastern Scotland also having a sunny day tomorrow. But on the west coast, a grey starts. likely to be some rain and drizzle at times here too. For Northern Ireland, maybe a bit of drizzle at times along the north coast, but generally it will be a fine day. Some sunny spells coming through in Belfast and lots of sunshine for England and Wales. These western coasts likely to start with some mist and low cloud, and that may take a while to shift because the winds are so light, but certainly many inland areas having a lot of sunshine tomorrow. And it will be hot sunshine as well. Temperatures higher than today's values, likely to get over 30 degrees somewhere across the southeast and many places into the mid-20s at least. And it's starting to turn warmer still across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Friday's a similar story. The threat of thicker cloud and drizzle at times over the northern and the western Isles. Threat of some mist and low cloud around coasts, Irish Sea coast, perhaps North Sea coast too. But for most, it's hot and sunny on Friday, and temperatures ticking up even further, more widely up into the high 20s, and a few more places likely to exceed 30 degrees. May well get hotter for the weekend.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Farage with me, your host for tonight, Martin Dorby. Now, the United Kingdom is set to miss today's crucial deadline to secure a trade deal with the US on steel and aluminium, a delay that could see tariffs on British exports double to 50%, when Donald Trump had indicated willingness that they could have been avoided altogether. Now, despite weeks of talks, two key sticking points remain. American demands that only UK-forged steel qualifies for tariff relief, and also concerns over Chinese links to British steel. It has the government's hesitation put the future of Britain's metal industry at risk without rhyme or reason. Well, I'm joined now by the Trade Policy Manager at UK Steel, Peter Brennan, and also with my panel as the former Labour advisor, Stella Shantikidu, and the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng. First, Peter Brennan, let's turn to you. Do you think our government cares about the British steel industry? Has Sir Keir Starmer, pardon the pun, lost his mettle?
I think what it's shown is it definitely cares. I mean, they've got a deal currently that we pay 25% tariffs. That's better than anywhere else in the world. Everyone else is paying 50% on the steel that lands in America. They've negotiated very hard. They're working very hard behind the scenes on the quota system or whatever will come in. The main thing is they just have to get it across the line now. And the problem is they're fighting for the attention of the president, who's very focused on many trade deals with countries around the world.
Answered like a true politician, Peter Brennan. Well done. What about the notion of one of the US stumbling blocks is having China involved in British steel? Is it just time to kick the Chinese completely out?
Well, the Prime Minister's saying that that isn't so much of an issue. I think the Americans recognise that we've taken it under special ownership. There isn't, a clear connection with the Chinese anymore. What goes forward, whether we nationalise that, whether we try and get another private investor involved, that's another issue. But I don't think, from what Keir Starmer has said, that is a primary concern at the moment in the negotiations with the US.
Do you think it's a good idea to nationalise British steel?
That is not something that I would like to say. I think what's very clear is...
Well, take it back into the hands of the people? Make sure that it's a sovereign key industry that Britain has control over. No more mercy at the hands of the Chinese.
What's very clear is that we need to set up a landscape where these assets are investable and sustainable going forward. We have issues around energy prices, which are very clear. We have even bigger issues around trade policy. There is a massive amount of steel flooding into the international markets from East Asia. That's very highly subsidised. It's unfairly trading. And we need a government to support us to make sure that we have the trade defence instruments we need that enable domestic steel producers to flourish, whether they're publicly owned or privately.
Well, a source has told Bloomberg that the steel issue is being treated as a low priority in Whitehall versus the European Union and other countries who are racing to secure much better terms. Do you not think there's something in that? Rheinmetall in Germany is really striving for a deal. Do you think Britain just doesn't really care about it? Doesn't really understand steel?
We're the only country in the world with 25% at the moment. Everyone else is 50%. So we're certainly from a favourable position from that perspective. I've worked very closely with the officials. They've been working very hard to get this across the line. I don't think this is about the UK political will. I think this is about getting the attention from the American president at a time when he's making deals, looking to make deals with Japan and all sorts of countries.
Yeah, let's bring my panel in now. Kwasi Kwarteng.
Peter has essentially done a very good job in representing the UK Steel. And you sounded very much like a government minister. I mean, you were essentially giving the lines and that they care about it. But clearly, if they did care about it enough, they'd be able to get a deal done. And I'm surprised that on something like this, it doesn't have to go up to Trump. There'll be many officials in the Commerce Department, I think it is, in the United States, who will be looking at this. And it seems odd to me that we haven't actually reached a conclusion on this. So I'm agreeing with Martin's premise that it probably is a bit of a low priority, because if it were a high priority, they would have done the deal.
No, I think they probably just read Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, and they know that if a deal takes two parties, it's not just one party that chooses when that deal is finalized and the terms. And actually, sometimes it's much better to take a little bit longer, which does mean the government actually spending more time, more resources, more political capital to make that deal happen on the correct terms, on the terms that are the most favorable to the British industry, rather than just settle for something so that they can feed it to the papers.
So in the big picture, UK Steel, with all respect, is not a huge factor in terms of the imports to the United States. So our bargaining position, you talked about the art of the deal, our bargaining position is really very weak. And of course there's a cliff edge because you have to do the deal by a certain time. Otherwise you won't get any favourable terms. So I think what Martin said is right. I don't think there's enough political attention on securing a deal.
Political attention from the side of Donald Trump, from the side of our American
partners. Well, from our side as well. I mean, we should be able to sort this out,
I don't
surely.
think so, because I keep on hearing about the green industrial strategy and the importance of reindustrializing and the importance of our industries like steel, for example, from the Labour Party and from the Labour government. So I really don't think that's the case.
OK, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Peter Brown, and also Stella and Kwasi. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, just weeks after a heartfelt GB News appeal from a children's taxi charity to save their annual zoo trip, they came into this very studio. Well, today, 65 black cabs rolled out in a powerful show of kindness, taking more than 200 children to the zoo. And we're speaking to the wonderful honorary charity chairman next, who is having a celebratory cup of tea as we speak. That's next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain. So he can say whatever he wants. A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is he? What's he doing there?
They already know who you are, though.
Don't miss this special reunion, Eamon and Anne together again, only on GB News Breakfast this weekend from 6 a.m.
And is that a gardening tan?
No, it's a cypress tan.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, your host, Martin Thornby. Now, just 1 month ago, the London taxi drivers charity appeared on GB News here with me in this very studio with a heartfelt appeal for more cabbies, warning that without new volunteers, their cherished annual trips could be lost. Well, today, that magnificent tradition rolled on as 65 black cabs formed a heart-warming convoy taking more than 200 children with special needs to the zoo for a day that they'll never, ever forget. Marvellous pictures there, as you can see on your screen. And I'm so pleased, I'm delighted now to be joined by Tony Moore, who's the honorary chairman for the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children. Tony, always a pleasure to see you, my old son. So you came on the show, we did our bit to help, and it looks like you've had a right old result.
No, I must admit, a big thank you goes out to yourself and your team. It did make a big difference. So, yeah, first thank you has to go out to yourselves. We never enough doubled our numbers, so it was a really good event. It really was a good event.
Yeah, Tony Moore, it's not about us, it's about you and the magnificent work you do. Tell us about the zoo trips in general, and in particular, this trip this year. Tell us about it gives a flavour of the type of kids that go on them and what they get out of it.
Well, all the children that we take are from the special needs departments of schools. We have, special needs centres that come along. You know, some of them are in wheelchairs, some of them have different conditions altogether, not all visible. But with today's trip, we managed to get, as you said, 200 children to get to this event, and so they all leave with a big smile on their face, a little toy as a gift to leave with. They just leave with a great big fun day. So, as you can see from my face, I'm a bit red today because I've been in that, out in that sun for way too long today. But yeah, it was a fantastic day. It was a fantastic day. And I would like to say again, a big thank you to all the drivers, the new drivers. They are some of the ones that turned up. So yeah, all the new drivers that turned up, all of my committee that helped, to make it a successful event. And, we, for the first time in a little while, we had a group of outriders. Because we had so many this time, we had to get a group of outriders that, helped us along the journey and held up traffic for us, which as you can imagine, the first car that lets us out is all waves and smiles, but by the time you've got 60-odd taxis going past, holding them up, they're not smiling as much. So again, I like to say thank you to those as well. And a big thank you to the Hertfordshire Zoo, formerly I can't remember what were they before, but the Hertfordshire Zoo they're called now. But it's a great zoo. They have a dinosaur section that the kids can go around on a train with or walk around in, and it really is a good, tiring day.
Well, Tony,
I would like to pull you up on the point. I haven't quite got home for a cup of tea yet. That will be when I start up the engine again. I should be home in about 15 minutes.
Well, maybe Tony Moore, after being out in the baking sort of day, you might deserve something a little bit stronger than a cup of tea. On a serious point, Captain, we were just watching pictures there on screen of those kids in wheelchairs, and it's just amazing to see. Young kids have that hope, that ray of sunshine on their lives. What you've done is truly, truly magnificent. And I bet you as well that the boys that are doing the driving and the girls, no doubt, get a huge, huge lift out of it.
Well, I say we had a lot of first-time drivers, and the messages I've had from them since, they've dropped the kids off, is they had a great day. They didn't realise, for me, there is a big sense of pride when I see the taxi drivers come together representing what we do. I say this is our 97th year of doing these events, and it is getting harder to find new taxi drivers because there ain't as many of us as there used to be. So, again, a big thank you to the ones who turned up for the first time, and they've all said they'll come again next year. So that's another bonus that that's going to have a knock-on effect. And hopefully we get more next year and we can invite even more children.
Well, Tony Moore, you've certainly deserved that cup of tea when you get home. Please enjoy it. And, let's get you back on any time you need help. We're so happy to help you. And thank you for your kind words to us. As the small bit we did here at GB News. Tony Moore, the honorary chairman for the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children. And thanks to all the cabbies that turned up today and volunteered free of charge all of their time. Magnificent stuff. Thank you. And mind how you go.
Thank you very much.
Next, of course, absolute pleasure, my old son. Coming up next is State of the Nation. Of course, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg is mine host tonight. Sir Jacob, what's on your menu?
Well, I've got Peter Lilly coming in to talk about his essay on the European Convention on Human Rights and pointing out an awful lot of things said about it just aren't true, that Churchill and Attlee did not want to be signed up to the European Convention. And he's worried that it will make us American and that we will politicise justice if we carry on having judges who replace their opinion for those of elected ministers. And I think it's a really important discussion, so I'm delighted he's coming on.
Can I also get your take on the state visit of Emmanuel Macron? Dear Keir, he called him yesterday and today, but he put the boot in, saying it was Sir Keir Starmer's fault that the illegal immigrants keep coming over the channel because, of course, of the pull factor. Benefits, hotels and endless giveaways courtesy of the British taxpayer.
Well, in some ways, this follows on from the human rights thing, doesn't it? Because it's our obsession with foreign human rights that have meant that we haven't had an effective policy of removing people. Macron is not actually a friend of the United Kingdom. He is a friend of France. He's been a very difficult man for the UK government to deal with, not just with Starmer, but previously. And he loves sending the boats over to us, really. And that's why the French have been so useless. They take all our money and they do nothing in return. We shouldn't trust him an inch.
Do you think he's actually a friend of Keir Starmer, or is it a rictus grin? He's actually only a true friend of France.
Of course he's not a friend of Keir Starmer's. The more somebody says he's your great friend, the more it's likely to be oil or flannel, the less it's likely to be true. I mean, it's a bit like the thing, the more he spoke of his honesty, the more we counted our spoons. With Macron, you should count the spoons.
And quickly, at the British Museum today, Macron was flanked by 2 European Union flags.
Well, that's because France is obsessed with the European Union. That's up to him. He wants to be a cipher of the European Union. He wants France to be a colony of Brussels. An odd thing to want to be, but nonetheless, if that's what he wants. If he wants to be a sort of regional governor of France, rather than the president of a proud nation, that's his affair, it's not mine.
And I wonder, actually, if that's his future job, wants to be the president of the EU, or perhaps actually Sir Keir Starmer would like to be the president of the European Union. Thank you very much. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg is up next for State of the Nation. I'll see you on Friday. Now's your weather, though. Here's Alex Deakin.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Temperatures rising over the next few days. Another heat wave for a large part of the country. Strong July sunshine thanks to this strong area of high pressure. There is a weather front just draped over northern Scotland that will continue to bring some cloud and patchy rain here through the night and for tomorrow. But most places under the influence of high pressure will be dry. Light winds may turn a bit misty in a few spots, particularly around western coast, and it will be quite a warm night, especially so in the southeast and East Anglia, 16-17 to start the day on Thursday. Should be a lot of sunshine across England and Wales tomorrow, more so than today, although parts of the west will start a little drab and a little misty, probably starting fairly cloudy too for Northern Ireland. Good chunk of central, southern and eastern Scotland also having a sunny day tomorrow. But on the west coast, a grey starts. Likely to be some rain and drizzle at times here too. For Northern Ireland, maybe a bit of drizzle at times along the north coast, but generally it will be a fine day. Some sunny spells coming through in Belfast and lots of sunshine for England and Wales. These western coasts likely to start with some mist and low cloud, and that may take a while to shift because the winds are so light, but certainly many inland areas having a lot of sunshine tomorrow. And it will be hot sunshine as well. Temperatures higher than today's values, likely to get over 30 degrees somewhere across the southeast and many places into the mid-20s at least. And it's starting to turn warmer still across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Friday's a similar story. The threat of thicker cloud and drizzle at times over the northern and the western Isles. Threat of some mist and low cloud around coasts, Irish Sea coast, perhaps North Sea coast too. But for most, it's hot and sunny on Friday, and temperatures ticking up even further, more widely up into the high 20s, and a few more places likely to exceed 30 degrees. May well get hotter for the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra